Well, hello everyone. Here, I show you the dream meanings coloring activity right here. Is that showing you right here is like if most of us were to say go to bed, it's like you say turn the lights off, or if most of us were to sleep, of course with our lights on, it is of knowing about that I heard about, of course, in science, I think health class it was in school, that knowing about that of course that you got right here is the pupil on your eye, of course, would get bigger and smaller, of course, if you're in a room where there's a lot of light, and of course if you're in somewhere where there's no light at all, it's like so far as whenever your pupil gets smaller, it is. And a lot of times it's like knowing about that, anybody maybe think about that with the pupil, it is that whenever it gets smaller, it is knowing about it's like your time for adjustment, of course, for whenever you go to bed, it is. And or if you're somewhere where it's there's no light, and then of course in order to get adjusted to the lights. And anybody maybe think about if most of us have been entered into a dark room, such as walked somewhere where there was a dark room. But on the other hand, that whenever we go to bed, it is, I would hand you right here as an example right here, so far as the dream meaning of if you were in bed and all of a sudden you turn the lights off. And knowing about, with most of us, like I would probably be one of them, of course, is knowing about being afraid of the dark, it is. And knowing about is like if you were to have that to where that if you were to be laying in bed, it was. And most of us think about like that go to bed, and all of a sudden that it's like that you wind up drifting off to sleep, it is. If you wind up drifting off to sleep, and then you start to having dreams, it is. And like talking about right here, as you got right here, is like if this was like you're talking about between my pajamas, and of course if it was the pillows I was sleeping on, it's like you have right here, is like you got right here is the pillows, it is. And knowing about that, a lot of times if we would be in our beds resting, it is, and then we wake up, and then we may tell somebody, of course, about an interesting dream that we may have had, or it could have been a dream such as maybe anybody probably think about example of say of a nightmare, it is. And knowing about with the type of bad dreams though that I've it's like you had one earlier, and talking about the types of details, of course, that you can remember. I even remember some of the bad dreams that I had back those couple of years ago, was of knowing about that if most of us have had dreams, of course, about trying to run from somebody or trying to run from something, it is. And then your legs and then your arms felt like they were stuck on gum or something like that. But anyway, other types of dreams that more likely that you may experience, it is. And I can tell anybody here that knowing about, would say was a doctor study of talking about with like which calls like if it's sleep apnea or something like that, of knowing about that you wake up and then all of a sudden you start doing stuff whenever you don't realize that you're doing it. Like anybody maybe think about, maybe it's an example of like maybe if it's sleepwalking or something like that. But anyway, that with anybody maybe thinking about that the things that more likely at the time, I really don't know what it's called, but knowing about whenever you get up and then out of bed, and then you may start doing stuff, it is. Or I've had it to where that had a lot of things going on a couple of times to where I would wake up, and anybody probably think about that you wake up and you're inside your bedroom, it is. And knowing about that and realizing I'm like that you're trying to remember, okay, what's today, what day is it, what time is it, it is. But and a lot of times that I guess that means that your body's not fully awake, it is. And then you're trying to still waking up, of course, from whenever you rested, it is. It's like anybody maybe think about if they got busy maybe at work, it was, and then knowing about that they wind up going to sleep, and then they wake up and it seems like it's that they've only been asleep for about 2 hours, and it seems like 5 hours or something like that. A lot of times that then they wake up and check and see what time it is. And a lot of people probably think about, like with the alarm clock, it is, they set their alarm clock, and then the next thing you know, it's like that if they may not hear the alarm go off or something like that, they wake up and say, "What time is it?" Like, but anyway, between like what you call like between 5:30 or so, 5:30 p.m. or 5:30 a.m. it is like the time that more like if you're supposed to get up. Anybody maybe thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, with the alarm clocks, with some alarm clocks that they have it to where people may think about that they sleep right through them. It is sleep right through them, but what you got right here is the details I went ahead and added right here for the bed. It is, but so far as you say for dream meeting, it is like a lot of times we might think about it, it's like for dream meeting. Of course, what does it mean? A lot of times it's like whenever we dream, it is of if it's what you call that so-called nightmare. For like a nightmare, that a lot of times wondering about that. I'm like, what does it usually mean? What does nightmares usually mean? It is like talking about is if it's fear. I guess if it's what you call the fear of, you say, feeling, it is. But knowing about that anything that you could be maybe concerned about. But on the other hand, I'd talk about is like with the dream though. That I could probably tell anybody here that I probably, whenever I dream, it is like I can maybe go on the stories about it. But of course, one of the stories of knowing about that you dream and seem something seems so real, seems so real to be true. Something seems so real to be true, such as what you call, if it's like what you call is like promotion at a job or anything like that, or anything related to maybe anybody maybe think about pick a thing at random, such as or what you call maybe winning the lottery or something like that. But on the other hand, that the way I would think about it, anybody probably think about it so far with dream meaning, and then of course got right here is a star, is it knowing about if we were to get our night lights out, and it's like turn on our night lights, and then sleep. It's like during the time you say with the night light it is, and but a lot of times that any kid would probably think about that if they were to be going to sleep. It is a lot of times that they would want to buy one of those special comforters, if it was one of their favorite Disney characters, such as if anybody like would maybe want to have one, maybe for like a Tinkerbell or maybe like a Scooby-Doo, type design. It is, something like that. And then a lot of times though, whenever we dream, a lot of times it seems like it takes us to a whole new place. It takes us to a different place. But knowing about whenever we're just lying here, that if most of us know what I'm talking about, that you would maybe start dreaming about that maybe that there's a dog trying to chase you, or if it's anything related to that you are lost in the woods, whichever it is, or if it's anything related to as something that you heard on the news, it is, or something like that. But so far as right now, I even have dreams, of course, about saving, rescuing people, maybe from a fire or something like that. Something related to rescuing it is, and I'm like in my dream that I'm talking to somebody. I could probably tell anybody here that a lot of times that I even had dreams, of course, about going back to school. Maybe. Somebody at the church where I used to go, she has to ask. It's like, you had those dreams about, going to school. You had to go to school, and then, if you would be riding your bike to school, it is, and then next thing you know, by the time you're at the school, that you ain't got nothing, no clothes on except your underwear. It is, and a lot of times that even whenever I go to work, sometimes I dream about going to work, and then the next thing you know, it's like I go to work. Wearing the wrong, pants, or wearing the wrong shirt or something like that. You're still in your pajamas, and like with anybody, you maybe think about that happens to a lot of people. Like talking about it's like, yep, that go to work, if it's going to work wearing the wrong thing or something like that, or you say if you decide to keep you did not, maybe you did not have time to eat breakfast this morning or something like that. But anyway, it's talking about with dreams though, that I would have say interesting dreams. It is, and was anybody maybe think about with the whole meaning, of course, with dreams though, that a lot of times, what does it usually mean whenever you lay in bed? I've had a couple of dreams to where that you would be laying in bed. It is, and then it's like if like a couple of times I would be staying the night. I think staying the night somewhere at somebody's house. I think at a friend's house it was, and that if I were to be staying the night somewhere at somebody's place it was, and then that kind of like what you call is like laying down somewhere, sleeping, or that place where they had me sleep it was. And I can remember that getting adjusted to of course the environment, but on the other hand too, that knowing about with getting adjusted to the environment, that I would I would wind up falling asleep and then having interesting dreams and then waking up and then realizing I'm like that yeah, you're not home yet. And I could probably tell anybody that I'm like that, yeah, especially at hotels. If most of us have had the experience, of course, of staying at overnight at a hotel, if it's a hospital, or if it's any type of camp. Anybody probably think about if they have experience, like you say in the military, if they if somewhere that they would sleep, that more likely they would feel quite a bit different compared to where they normally sleep at. And with anybody, you maybe think about if you want to bring a little teddy bear with you or something like that, just to keep you comfy or something like that. But anyway, talk about right here is like with dreaming though, is that knowing about that anybody maybe think about that's like that whenever we dream though, that a lot of times we may have interesting dreams. It is with these interesting dreams though, that go ahead and use part marker that like just add a little bit of marker but for the mouth. But anyway, that with the interesting dreams though, a lot of us may wonder about what do these dreams mean. You were dreaming, like you may keep dreaming about maybe getting a house one of these days, or if it's anything related to the fact about that yeah, I sometimes even had dreams, of course, about driving in a car with bad brakes, and it's hard to stop it whenever you're coming up maybe to a traffic light. It is. And anybody maybe think about any type of dreams. It is, and a lot of times the dreams really don't make sense, and it seems like they're so real. And on the other hand too, that knowing about that yeah, if anybody was used to the fact about whenever they dream though, that they may have trained themselves to where that they can sleep even with their eyelids open, whichever it is. But on the other hand, with the way our eyes work, it is knowing about this, where I learned, of course, in school, that say with their pupil, it is that it gets say bigger and smaller. It gets it gets smaller. I think whenever, if I can remember right, that the details that it gets smaller whenever if you're in a dark area. If you are somewhere where it's really dark, that more likely it's going to get smaller, and of course it gets bigger whenever you're somewhere light. But I can remember that wherever I'm sleeping, and a lot of times that they say whenever they turn the lights on, of course, inside the room, and it's like time to get up. I can, oh man, I can turn the lights off for a second. But I remember I experienced that a couple of times, and I could tell anybody here whenever I was young, it was that whenever I would be sleeping, it is like I would be resting, and I think it was around fall time, but I would get up, and then if I can draw an example, if this was if this right here would be like with me though, if I could draw an example though of me, that I would wake up a couple mornings on a school morning, it is, and my mom of course will wake me up, but I can remember that I would be it would be pretty cold inside my bedroom, to where I would throw a blanket over my shoulders. If most of us have done that before, that if you have right here is my shoulders right here, but my arms right here. But I would throw a blanket over my shoulders a lot of times. She would get me up ready for school, and then I can remember that still being in bed, get ready, and then she would get me ready for school. It is, and a lot of times I would throw a blanket over my shoulders because for whatever reason it was cold inside the room at the time. And like with anybody, you probably think about, I'm like, yeah, that why is it that more likely we would wear a blanket whenever we're sleeping? It is. And I really think the whole matter is like, to keep us, comfortable. It's like, keep our body temperature maintained, and on your hand too, for relaxation. The doctors can maybe say that there's maybe plenty of reasons to why that, kids and the adults, it is that, why they need a certain thing in order to be able to sleep, or for a good night's rest, it is. But it kind of looks like my legs, coming up. But I'll go ahead and draw my legs at about, if my legs were to be about right here, it is. But anyway, but yeah, that shows right there. Right here's my eyes right here. But anybody probably think about exactly about, it looks like in the drawing, I'm like that, you look like, not only do you look like that you're throwing the blanket over yourself, but it looks like maybe you're hugging yourself, whichever it is. That anybody maybe think about that, yeah, the things that maybe that they could be doing, while they're sleeping, it is. But I would say to tell anybody that if you be sleeping, that more likely that from my experience, if anybody think about it, like if they wake up one morning and maybe if they were waiting for the tooth fairy or something like that, and knowing about that, wake up one morning a couple of times, that there would be a magazine on my bed. Of course, I would be able to look at, watch a little bit of TV before I got on the school bus. It was whenever I was riding the school bus at the time, and but right here is the blanket right here, and with the blanket that it was like, yeah, that I would my shoulders, of course, my arms, it would be, I would be pretty cold whenever I would wake up a couple of mornings, and it would be like, yeah, that want to cover myself up, of course, with the blanket, it is. And a couple of times, yeah, I would even lay back down. I remember my mom would help me out with pick out some clothes to wear for school. It is, whenever she would buy new clothes for me, and I can remember that she would send them down and say on the bed. It is like, hey, go ahead and wear this. And it's like after she would wash it, it was after she would get me up for school, about almost every morning, it is. And then there would be like, say, a magazine, and about right here, it is, to where I would be, if it had anything to do with maybe trains, or if it, anything related to video games. A lot of times it was trains or video games, that there would be like a catalog there I would be able to look at before I got on the school bus, about every morning, that's like you wake up for school, that it was like, yeah, that talking about those type of memories, huh? And then from there, and then right here is a dresser. I can still remember, of course, it's like being in my bedroom, and then the things, of course, I had, like a Lincoln Log set, but I can remember a couple times, listening. I would be listening to the radio too a couple times. I would listen to the radio a lot of times. That would help me relax until I drift off to sleep, it was. Right here's my dresser, and with my dresser, it had all kinds of things in it. Sometimes I would not even bother to fold the clothes sometimes, inside the dresser, it is. It's like, just put the clothes in there after my mom washed them. Just put the clothes in there, and then I wear them from later. But there will be a lamp right here. And I don't know, I tell anybody here, I really don't know if I was into Sesame Street, if I was a big Sesame Street fan, but I remember that I had a lamp. Whenever I was about 4 or 5, I had a lamp that would glow. If anybody remembers me saying before, I would have a lamp that would glow. Apparently, it would that it would glow colors. It is, and knowing about that with the colors, I'll go ahead and use is like the yellow, but type of colors it is. talking about, yeah, trying to show, working right here with the pen. But anyway, that and then plus, yeah, I really don't know. I think the alarm clock was on the side of the bed, but other than that, I would have a TV in my bedroom also. Of course, I got a TV in my room now as well, but if I remember right, yep, I would sometimes be watching TV. You keep me entertained, it was. It's like you got that same TV that I've had, since I was about, 8 years old, it is. It's not a flat screen, but it's like one of those RCAs. But other than that you got right there is like detail for the bedroom, and knowing about, like right here for the dream meaning of knowing about what does it usually mean whenever you have weird and interesting dreams. It is, I guess, if it's all about the mind, just be maybe the way that the brain works. It is, or if it's the fact about that, inside the nerves. It is. I guess a lot of the doctors will probably think about it. It's like maybe it's just it's your nerves. It is talking about that the things, of course, that your body thinks about. It's like whenever you go on rest, and I guess it takes you to like what's called like a whole separate, say, world. It is to where that to where things that more likely that you can imagine. It is knowing about that. Yep, that's imagine about what it's like to do this, what it's like to do that. It is, but on the other hand too, to talking about, it's like so far as talk about is like for my meaning for, say, the dream meaning.